Join us here in the studio tonight, United States Ambassador to the Philippines, Philip Goldberg. Welcome to CNN Philippines, sir. Thank you for being here.
Good evening, Pia.
Well, sir, let's begin with this. Balikatan has just wrapped up. Was it a good time to show Beijing that, well, the United States is serious about freedom of navigation, and on the part of the Philippine side, that no decision has been made yet on who owns these disputed territories?
Well, Balikatan was the 32nd iteration of that exercise, and we do it every year. It has different emphasis at different times, but we do practicing on maritime security, we do practicing on different military applications, including humanitarian assistance and disaster relief. And our people also spread out around the country and do community projects, building projects, and medical missions. So it's something we do regularly. And that's something to keep in mind in this whole, on this whole issue, which is that much of what we're doing is what we always do in supporting the Philippines, our ally, helping the Philippines as it goes about building and modernizing its defense. But what's different is what's going on in the South China Sea, as you just showed on your news report, the context.
Okay. Well, Mr. Ambassador, last February at a Spring Festival reception hosted by the Chinese Embassy, you were there also, I interviewed you there. I got a chance to speak to Chinese Ambassador Zhao Zhanhua. And he spoke at length about the U.S. and its freedom of, your freedom of navigation argument. Let's listen in first. Then, Mr. Ambassador, we will ask you to respond.
Well, the freedom of navigation in the South Chinese Sea has always been a very important factor, and China is always in favor of freedom of navigation based on international laws. What we cannot accept is that some countries using freedom of navigation as an excuse to intrude upon the sovereignty and interests of other countries. I think there has never been a problem of freedom of navigation in the South China Sea, and everybody can see that. So I would urge all countries concerned to truly respect the rights and sovereignty of countries concerned and work together to continue to preserve the freedom of navigation in the South China Sea.
Mr. Ambassador, freedom of navigation used as an excuse, and he talked about intruding into sovereignty.
Well, we have been doing freedom of navigation, if that's what you want to call it, for 70 years. What's new, as we just pointed out, Pia, is the context in which this is happening. The building of features, the militarization of those features, the unilateral actions against the wishes of other countries in the region, including allies of the United States.
And the flights.
And the flights. And so that's what's new, not freedom of navigation, which goes on and will continue to go on. It's an important principle for the United States and every country in this region. Every country has the right to pass through international waters and airspace. So that's what we'll continue to do.
On that same day that Balikatan wrapped up, that was the same day, right? Your Defense Secretary, Ashton Carter, and Philippine Defense Secretary, Walter Gazmin, visited an airbase in Palawan, and at the same time, they visited the USS Stennis.
Yes, I was with them.
Yes. And, well, the question now is, what message was there in that overflight over, the vicinity of Recto Bank and the visit to the USS Stennis? Was there anything there for Beijing?
Well, the visit to the Stennis was part of this effort that we have underway in freedom of navigation. We had the Balikatan going on, which was about maritime security and domain awareness. And our presence in the South China Sea is very much part of our alliance responsibilities, but also the principles that we've articulated about freedom of navigation. So, yes, we have had allies come to those ships before, and we will continue to do so.
Secretary Gazmin, in his remarks on the Stennis, had said, and we quote, "It is in the spirit of the ideals of our alliance and close relationship that we welcome the gallant crew of the USS Stennis to the clear waters of the West Philippine Sea." How does the U.S. refer to it? South China Sea, West Philippine Sea?
I refer to it sometimes as both, but we generally refer to it as the South China Sea.
Let's move on, sir, to U.S. Marine Lance Corporal Joseph Scott Pemberton. So his sentence has been shortened to a maximum of 10 years. Does the U.S. view this as fair or as enough, fair enough?
That was for the court to decide, and when the court reduced the sentence, that was a decision by the court based on Philippine law. We respect those decisions. But what we also do is follow the Visiting Forces Agreement, which also takes into account our agreement with the Philippine government about the terms of how he serves the sentence.
Right now, Mr. Ambassador Pemberton, of course, is in Camp Aguinaldo. What do you think, how do you feel, the U.S. government feel about efforts by the Jennifer Laude family to have Pemberton transferred outside of Aguinaldo?
Well,
a regular jail, for example.
The Philippine U.S. agreement, the Visiting Forces Agreement, provides for agreement by appropriate officials on where that is going to take place, where the sentence will be served, and that's what we're doing. We have actually come to very good agreements with the Philippine side throughout this process because we're good friends and allies. We have made sure that justice has been served. We helped actually through the NCIS with evidence in the case and making sure that the case was resolved very quickly. And so we've worked very well together, including during the stage where the custody was ours, and now a new stage where we've come to an agreement with the Philippines at Camp Aguinaldo, where it's done under the Bureau of Prisons, but also with U.S. Content. So I think it's a very fair arrangement and one that serves the cause of justice.
All right, final question, sir. Let's talk about our elections. We both have interesting elections and interesting candidates. How do election controversies here compare to yours back home?
Well, we have plenty of them. And I saw from the opening of your newscast, you have them here too.
Is the U.S. Embassy going to release a statement on that, or do you have any thoughts you'd like to share with us on?
I can only agree with my colleague from the Australian Embassy. I'm not going to get into your elections or comment on your candidates. That's for the people of the Philippines to decide in an election. But any statements by anyone, anywhere, that either degrade women or trivialize issues so serious as rape or murder are not ones that we condone.
Final words, Mr. Ambassador?
Well, the Balikatan exercise and the visit by Secretary Carter were very important for the alliance. I think they helped to further our relationship on the military and security side. We have a leave behind of an air contingent as well as a new setup for secure and classified communications. Secretary Carter announced a $42 million plus-up through the Maritime Security Initiative for the Philippines, which will help the Philippines in building its ability to see out into its maritime space, will add to its ability to put sensors on ships, to put an aerostat blimp in the air to see out into the maritime space. So I think all of those things are moving forward, are very important for the Philippines and for the modernization of the armed forces, but also for our alliance and the ability of the United States to be more present here under the rebalance.
Ambassador Philip Goldberg, thank you very much for coming to the studio. Maraming salamat po.
Thanks, Pia.